What is up, all my good RC people at home in YouTube TV land? It is time to start doing mods to our Ridge Runner. The ugly thing, isn't it? Oh, the body's eventually going to go, but that's not my first concern. It's straight out of the box, and it really doesn't do bad. For the amount of money this cost at $170, I've got really zero complaints about this truck. I mean, yeah, it's ugly, but I'm going to change the body anyway. Maybe someday in the future it'll become my monster beetle I've always wanted. And it's time to start doing our upgrades, though, because wheels, tires, servos, a little bit of weight. This thing will be a pretty daggone decent truck, even more so than it is now. I ordered 2 of these 20 kilogram Amazon servos. Here's the other one. And they've got the aluminum arms in there. I'm going to get those installed. And then the wheels and tires. Now, I picked up 4 of these SSD wheels. They were one of my local hobby shops, Cyclone Hobbies in Columbus, Ohio. $27.99 for 2, so what, $60 for all 4 of them. But I really like SSD wheels, and we were having that conversation when I was in there. The SSD stuff is a little bit more expensive than like your normal basic Amazon wheels you can buy, but I've always been really happy with them. They've always gone together good, and I've always liked the way they look. So, and we're going to get a good bit more weight than we had here, and man, I like that. Look at that, guys. Actual metal, like chrome outlaw wheels. So those are going to look pretty awesome. And the tires. I've been wanting to try these. These are the J Concepts Ruptures Green Compound. And they're also a little bit on the pricey side, but you know, that I guess that's what you get for saving money on the truck. You can spend more on your mods, right? I think they were $36 for 2 of them. And of course, you know, we needed 4, so I'll let you do that math. It makes me sad if I start adding up what I spend on this stuff. It's a lot more fun to stay in ignorant bliss on it. But yeah, ooh. So we are going to be setting just the tiniest bit taller than what's on there currently. Move some stuff out of the way so you can kind of see the comparison on height. So we're going to be a bit taller and a bit wider. And ooh, those are sticky. Even with the foam in them, listen. That's great. We'll put those on there, and while I have these out, I am probably going to take some plumbing solder and wrap around our ring in the middle. I usually buy one of those big rolls of the thick plumbing solder, and I'll roll off 4 equal links, wrap them around, wrap a band of electrical tape around it, put my bead locks and wheels together, and it's a good cheap way to add some weight to your stuff. So I'm going to get this stuff mounted up, and I will get back with you. The wheels and tires came out looking great. Well, I was getting ready to start doing the servo stuff, and this is pretty cool. In the previous model, the Ridge Rock, you had to take these 4 screws out, 2 on this side, 2 on the other, and drop the whole bottom of your chassis down in order to get to your receiver to change anything. But in the Ridge Runner model, all I have to do is kind of get this out of the way a little bit, and look, they put it right there. So very easy to switch out. All we're gonna have to do is cut a couple of these zip ties, and they have Phillips heads in there, and we'll be removing this servo saver now with the aluminum arm that replaces that. See if I can get, there we go. You're probably gonna have to take a saw, I have a hard time zooming in, and cut off the first hole right up against the second, and then kind of round it off. I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done. If not, if I remember right when I did my Ridge Rock mods, yep, see, it'll go down and hit your bar here, so you have to cut it up just a little tiny bit. I cut down our servo horns, and I was getting ready to swap the tires out. When I did, I noticed they were just these plastic hexes, and I actually had these for another build, but I use them in most of my builds anyway, so I'll just order another set. But I'm going to throw these Injora brass 10mm hex extensions on there. I'll throw one on one side and then show you the front so you can see how much wider it is, but it'll add a little bit more weight, and these are just nice to work with. And here we are, I've got one of them mounted up, and you can see the difference. There's the side without the spacer, and there's the side with the spacer. And I think the spacers are probably going to make it a lot nicer in there, just to give you that. You can see even with the spacers, it's not that far off from the C-hubs, where your stock ones are really close because of those portal axles. So that's going to give you that little bit of space you need to have just a little bit more headroom in there. Those already look much better than our stock tires. They're just a little bit bigger. And you will need an 8mm if you use the hex extensions. That is something that's just good to know, because I have been stranded on the trail several times because I didn't have my 8mm. Now I always have one with me, this big old T-wrench. So the servo that was in there comes with these like cheese ball screws and just, I don't know, goofy things. So I've switched out to these M3 flatheads, and they will fit in there perfectly. But you do have to thread them in. So 6-volt driver runs them right in there tight, and you're good to go. Good mount. Before I wire tie everything back down, I like to make sure everything works first. And if you look, there is just hardly any clearance, but it's just enough to make it. Now let's give it a spin. Much more power than the previous servo. And this being a 4-wheel steering, you will have to go into your individual trims for the front and rear and trim both of those in. All done, 4-wheel steering working, and I did add that solder to the inside ring of the bead locks like I spoke about in the beginning, and I just wheeled off about a 2-foot section, made 4 equal links, and wrapped the ring on the inside of the bead lock, and then wrapped that ring with electrical tape. And oh my, it's a beast now. I mean, you can just tell by that there is some weight there. I'm going to do a little bit of trimming on that body sitting back there, and I think that'll make a world of difference on the appearance of this thing, and we're going to take it out and run it. So after chopping off some generous portions of the body, I think it actually looks pretty decent now. I chopped off the doors right at the door line, and the bumpers right at the bottom of that sticker all the way around. And these big old wheel wells, I don't understand why they were on there to begin with. They're just kind of goofy looking, so I cut them off too. Well, let's get it out and crawl it. Okay, I've got everything all hooked up. It's wet out here. It has been raining, but that should really help with the test and see what we're dealing with. I've also been adding stuff to the course. So far, so good. I've got a little bit of rub. I'm gonna have to cut some more of them fenders away, which I'm completely okay with. Haven't even had to use the 4-wheel steering yet. I'm going to click that 4-wheel steering on. Now I've got the turn complete. I'm going to click it back off. I think that's going to wrap it up. That's about as good of a test as I'm going to get. The upgrades were apparent to me by the way it drove. It is much better. There are still things I'd really like to change about this truck. Mostly the way the front and the rear end don't match when you're trying to drive. So if you've noticed, I'm sure by the video, that one differential is moving faster than the other depending on what angle or direction you're going. I wish the front motor and the back motor would both run at the same speed all the time. Or even the front one if it was just a tiny bit faster than the back one, but all the time, consistently. So that's kind of a weird thing to try to get used to know when where you're actually going to have power and when. But I think if I get rid of that ESC combo and set it up differently, I can probably just put direct power to both those motors so they're getting equal power all the time, and I won't have to worry about being a differential thing. But that's something to come in the future. But thanks for watching. If you're going to get one of these are just some of the most essential upgrades you can do. Servos, weight, wheels, tires, and some body trimming, which I have some more to do on this. But thanks for watching. I hope you found this useful. I hope you have a great day. Smash that like, and I'll see you on the next video.